I never imagined that before walking down the aisle, I'd be walking into a DNA test. We were best friends, then lovers, and now almost husband and wife. But there's one question that could change everything. Am I really the father of her daughter? Until I have that answer, I can't say I do.
My name is Jake Morrison, and this is the story of how a single moment of doubt nearly destroyed the love of my life, and how the truth set us both free. It started on a humid August evening in Dallas, Texas. Sarah Chen and I had been best friends since college at Austin. We'd weathered breakups, career changes, family drama, you name it. Somewhere along the way, friendship turned into something deeper. 3 years ago, we finally admitted what everyone else already knew. We were meant to be together. But life has a way of complicating even the most beautiful love stories. Sarah had Emma when she was 22, a bright, curious little girl with Sarah's infectious laugh and stubborn streak. Sarah had always been vague about Emma's father, saying only that he was someone from college who wasn't ready to be a dad. I'd never pressed for details. It wasn't my business, and honestly, I'd fallen in love with both Sarah and Emma as a package deal. Emma, now 7, called me Jake Dad, a title that filled my heart every time I heard it. I'd been there for her first day of school, her scraped knees, her bedtime stories. In every way that mattered, I was her father. So when Sarah suggested we finally tie the knot, I was over the moon. We'd been living together for 2 years, and marriage felt like the natural next step. We set the date, booked the venue, a charming little chapel in Plano, and started planning our future. That's when my mother dropped the bombshell. "Jake, honey, I need to tell you something," she said during a family barbecue 3 weeks before the wedding. We were sitting on the back porch of my childhood home in Richardson, watching Emma play with my nephew in the yard. "What's on your mind, Mom?" She fidgeted with her sweet tea glass, a sure sign she was nervous. "I overheard Sarah on the phone yesterday, when she was here helping with the wedding favors. She was talking to someone about Emma's father, and, well, it sounded like there might be more to that story than she's told you." My stomach dropped. "What do you mean?" "She mentioned something about dates, Jake, about when Emma was conceived. And then she said your name." The world seemed to tilt on its axis. "My name? I think you might be Emma's biological father, son. And I think Sarah knows it." I sat there in stunned silence, watching the little girl I'd come to love as my own, trying to process what my mother had just said. If this were true, it would mean Sarah had been lying to me for years. But it would also mean that Emma, sweet, brilliant Emma, was actually mine. The implications hit me like a freight train. If Sarah had been deceiving me about something this fundamental, what else had she hidden? And why? Was she marrying me out of love, or out of convenience because she needed a father for our daughter? That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed next to Sarah, studying her peaceful face in the moonlight, wondering if the woman I thought I knew was a stranger. By morning, I made a decision that would change everything. I needed the truth, all of it, and until I had it, I couldn't walk down that aisle. The next morning, I waited until Emma left for school before bringing it up. Sarah was in our kitchen, humming while she packed lunches, mine for work, hers for her job at the marketing firm downtown. It was such a normal, domestic scene, and I was about to shatter it. "Sarah, we need to talk." Something in my tone must have alerted her because she stopped mid-hum and turned to face me, a worried expression crossing her features. "What's wrong, Jake? You look like you've seen a ghost." "Maybe I have." I took a deep breath. "I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest with me." She set down the lunch bags and crossed her arms defensively. "Okay. Is Emma my daughter?" The color drained from her face so quickly I thought she might faint. She gripped the kitchen counter behind her, her knuckles white. "Jake, please, just answer the question." For a long moment, she said nothing. Then, in a voice barely above a whisper, "I don't know." Those 3 words hit me like a physical blow. "You don't know, or you do know and you're afraid to tell me." Tears started streaming down her cheeks. I suspected, okay, the timing. It could have been you. "But Jake, you were dating Rebecca then, and I was seeing Michael, and that night we were together was supposed to be just one mistake between friends." My mind raced back 8 years to that night she was referring to. It was right before graduation. We'd both been drinking at a party, dealing with the stress of finals and uncertain futures. One thing led to another, and we'd ended up together for one passionate, confused night. The next morning, we'd agreed it was a mistake and never spoke of it again. 3 months later, she told me she was pregnant with Michael's baby. You thought she might be mine, and you never told me. My voice was rising despite my efforts to stay calm. I was scared. You were planning to move to Austin for that job, and I was terrified of being pregnant and alone. Michael said he'd stand by me, but then he'd disappear when I told him. By the time Mama was born, you were already back in my life as my best friend, and I didn't want to ruin that. I stared at her, this woman I thought I knew completely. So you just decided to never tell me I might be a father. I told myself it was better this way. You were there for Emma anyway, loving her like your own. What difference would biology make? What difference? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Sarah, everything. It makes all the difference in the world. I need to mention something here. This all happened right in the heart of Texas, in one of those suburban communities where everyone knows everyone. You know the kind of place I'm talking about, where news travels fast and secrets are hard to keep. If you're from one of these tight-knit Texas towns, drop the name of your city in the comments below. I'd love to hear from people who understand what it's like living in a place where your personal business becomes everyone's business overnight. The fight that followed was unlike anything we'd ever experienced. 8 years of friendship, 3 years of love, and now this massive deception threatening to destroy it all. Sarah kept insisting that she'd convinced herself Michael was the father, that she'd blocked out the possibility that it could be me. But I could see in her eyes that she'd known, deep down, all along. I need some time to think, I finally said, grabbing my keys. Jake, please don't leave like this. We can work through this. I paused at the door. Can we? Because right now, I don't even know who you are. I drove aimlessly through Dallas for hours, my phone buzzing with calls and texts from Sarah that I couldn't bring myself to answer. Finally, I ended up at my brother Mike's house in Garland. You look like hell, he said, opening the door and immediately stepping aside to let me in. I told him everything. Mike listened without judgment, occasionally shaking his head or muttering under his breath. So what are you going to do? He asked when I finished. I don't know. I can't marry her not knowing the truth, but I'm terrified of what the truth might be. Why? If Emma's your daughter, isn't that a good thing? It's not about Emma, I said. It's about Sarah lying to me for 8 years. How do I trust someone who could keep something like this from me? Mike was quiet for a moment. Maybe the question isn't whether you can trust her again. Maybe it's whether you love her enough to try. I spent 3 days at Mike's house, avoiding Sarah's calls and trying to sort through the chaos in my head. On the 4th day, I finally went home. Sarah was waiting for me, her eyes red and puffy from crying. I thought you might not come back, she said softly. I almost didn't. I sat down across from her at our kitchen table, the same table where we'd shared thousands of meals, helped Emma with homework, planned our future. Now it felt like a negotiation table. Jake, I know I should have told you sooner. I know I messed up. But I need you to understand something. I didn't lie to hurt you. I lied because I was terrified of losing you. You might lose me anyway. Her face crumpled. I know, and I deserve that. But Emma doesn't. She was right about that. Whatever happened between Sarah and me, Emma was innocent in all this. I want a DNA test, I said. Sarah nodded immediately. Okay. Yes, whatever you need. And I want the wedding postponed. This hit her harder. Jake, I can't stand up there and make vows to you when I don't even know if our relationship is built on a lie. We need to know the truth first, and then we need to figure out how to move forward. What do we tell Emma? It was a good question. Emma had been so excited about the wedding, about officially becoming a family. How do you explain to a 7-year-old that everything she thought she knew might be different? We tell her we're moving the wedding to make it even more special, I said. We don't say anything else until we know for sure. That afternoon, I researched DNA testing options. I found a lab in Addison that offered discreet, confidential paternity testing with results in 3 to 5 business days. The whole process seemed so clinical, so removed from the emotional storm we were in. The hardest part was getting the sample from Emma without her knowing what was happening. Sarah suggested we could get a sample during Emma's regular dental cleaning, just a simple cheek swab that would look routine. I feel like such a fraud, Sarah said as we drove to the appointment. She trusts us completely, and here we are, sneaking around behind her back. We're not sneaking around. I reply. We're trying to give her the truth she deserves to know. At the dentist's office, I watched Emma chatting happily about school, completely oblivious to the fact that her entire world might be about to change. Dr. Martinez, our family dentist, was a kind man who'd been seeing Emma since she was 3. He knew about our situation and had agreed to help discreetly. Emma, I'm going to take a quick sample from your cheek to make sure everything's healthy in there, he said, holding up what looked like a standard cotton swab. Does it hurt? She asked. Not at all, sweetheart, just like brushing your teeth. 2 minutes later, we had what we needed. I provided my sample at the lab on the way home, and then all we could do was wait. Those 5 days were the longest of my life. Sarah and I barely spoke, moving around each other like polite strangers. We kept up appearances for Emma's sake, but the tension was suffocating. I slept in the guest room, something Emma noticed but didn't question. Work was impossible. I'd sit at my desk at the construction company, staring at blueprints without seeing them, checking my phone every 10 minutes to see if the lab had called early with results. On day 3, my phone rang during lunch. Unknown number. Mr. Morrison. This is Amanda from Precision DNA Labs. We have your results ready. Would you like us to email them to you, or would you prefer to come in? My heart was pounding so hard I could barely hear her. Email them, please. They'll be in your inbox within the hour. I called Sarah immediately. They have the results? Oh God, Jake. I don't know if I'm ready. We don't have a choice. We're past ready. We need to know. Should we look at them together? Yes. Can you meet me at home in 30 minutes? I'll be there. I left work early, telling my foreman I had a family emergency, which wasn't exactly a lie. I drove home in a daze, my phone buzzing with the notification that the email had arrived. But I didn't look, not yet. Sarah was already there when I arrived, pacing in our living room like a caged animal. Did you look? She asked. No. I waited for you. We sat on the couch, my laptop between us. With shaking hands, I opened my email and clicked on the message from the lab. Whatever this says, Sarah whispered. I love you. I've always loved you, Jake. That was never a lie. I nodded, not trusting my voice, and opened the attachment. The document was clinical, full of technical terms and percentages. But the conclusion was clear, printed in bold letters at the bottom of the page. Probability of paternity. 99.97%. Jake Morrison cannot be excluded as the biological father of Emma Chen. I stared at the screen, reading the words over and over again. Emma was my daughter, my biological daughter. After 7 years of loving her like my own, she actually was my own. Sarah was crying beside me, but I couldn't tell if they were tears of relief or fear. She's mine, I said, the words feeling strange in my mouth. Emma is my daughter, Jake. I'm so sorry. I should have told you. I should have been honest from the beginning. 1,000 emotions crashed over me at once. Joy, anger, confusion, love. It was overwhelming. I had a daughter. I had always been a father, but now I was officially, biologically, legally a father, but I was also furious. 8 years, Sarah, 8 years you kept this from me. 8 years I could have known she was mine from the start. I know I was wrong, but Jake, look at what you two have together. Would it have been different if you'd known? She had a point. I'd loved Emma from the moment I met her. Knowing she was biologically mine didn't change that love, but it changed everything else. What about Emma? When do we tell her? I don't know. How do you tell a 7-year-old that everything she thought she knew about her family was wrong? We were so lost in our conversation that we didn't hear the front door open. We didn't realize Emma was home from school until we heard her small voice from the doorway. Tell me what? My heart stopped. She was standing there in her school uniform, backpack still on, looking between Sarah and me with those intelligent eyes that I now realized were exactly like mine. Emma, sweetheart, Sarah started, but I held up a hand. Come here, kiddo, I said, patting the couch between us. She approached cautiously, clearly sensing that something big was happening. Are you and Mom fighting? Is that why you're sleeping in the guest room? The perceptiveness of children never ceases to amaze me. She'd noticed everything. Of course, we're not fighting exactly, I said carefully. But we did just learn something very important, and we need to share it with you. Is someone sick? Her voice was small and scared. No, baby, Sarah said quickly. Nothing like that. It's actually good news. Really good news. I looked at Sarah, and she nodded. We'd agreed to always be honest with Emma, even when it was hard. Emma, you know how I've always been like a dad to you, even though we weren't related by blood. She nodded. Well, it turns out we are related by blood. I'm your real dad, your biological father. She looked between us, processing. You mean, like, really my dad? Really, so I don't have to call you Jake Dad anymore. I can just call you Dad. The simplicity of her reaction broke my heart in the best possible way. You can call me whatever feels right to you, sweetheart. She threw her arms around me. Dad, I like how that sounds, Dad. I looked over her head at Sarah, who was crying again. But this time, I knew they were tears of relief. Does this mean I can change my last name to Morrison? Emma asked, pulling back to look at me. If that's what you want, we can definitely talk about that, and we're still getting married, right? You and Mom, because now we're like a real family. The million-dollar question. I looked at Sarah, seeing hope and fear warring in her eyes. That's something your mom and I need to talk about more, I said diplomatically. But you still love us, right? I will always love you, Emma, both of you. That's never going to change. She seemed satisfied with that answer and bounced off to her room to start her homework, leaving Sarah and me alone again. She took that better than I expected, Sarah said. Kids are resilient. It's adults who complicate things. So what happens now? I leaned back on the couch, emotionally exhausted. Now we figure out how to move forward. You lied to me for 8 years. Sarah, that's not something I can just get over because we got good news. I understand. But Jake, we have a daughter together. We're a family. Whether we're married or not, I know. And that's what makes this so complicated. The weeks that followed were some of the most difficult of my life. Learning that Emma was my daughter should have been purely joyful, but Sarah's deception cast a shadow over everything. I found myself questioning every moment of our relationship, wondering what else she might have hidden from me. I started seeing a counselor, Dr. Patricia Williams, whose office was in a quiet building in Frisco. I'd never been to therapy before, but I needed help sorting through the tangled mess of emotions I was carrying. It sounds like you're dealing with 2 separate issues, she said during our 3rd session. The joy of discovering Emma is your biological daughter, and the betrayal you feel over Sarah's deception. These feelings don't cancel each other out. But how do I reconcile them? I love Emma more than life itself, and I love Sarah too, but I don't know if I can trust her anymore. Trust can be rebuilt, but it takes time and consistent effort from both parties. The question is whether Sarah is willing to do that work. At home, Sarah was trying everything to show me she was committed to complete honesty. She gave me access to her phone, her email, her social media accounts. She answered every question I had about our past, no matter how painful or uncomfortable. She started seeing her own therapist to work through why she'd kept such a huge secret for so long. I was so young when I found out I was pregnant, she told me one evening. We were sitting on the back porch after Emma had gone to bed, trying to have one of the honest conversations Dr. Williams had recommended. I was 22, barely graduated from college, and the 2 men who could have been the father were both moving on with their lives. Michael panicked and disappeared when I told him I might be pregnant. And you were with Rebecca, talking about your future together, but I would have stepped up if I'd known there was even a possibility. I know that now. But back then, I convinced myself I was protecting everyone. I thought if Michael was the father, maybe he'd come around. And if you were the father, I was terrified you'd stay with me out of obligation, not love. So you decided to just wing it, hope for the best. I know how it sounds. I know it was wrong. But Jake, I was scared and alone and trying to make the best decisions I could with the information I had. I understood her reasoning, but understanding didn't make the betrayal hurt any less. What happens if I can't get past this? I asked. What if every time I look at you, I remember that you lied to me? Tears streamed down her face. Then I lose the love of my life because I was too much of a coward to trust him with the truth. The conversation was interrupted by Emma appearing in the doorway in her pajamas. I can't sleep, she said. Will you tell me a bedtime story, Dad? That word, Dad, still sent a thrill through me every time I heard it. Of course, sweetheart. As I tucked Emma into bed and told her a story about a brave princess who learned that families come in all shapes and sizes, I realized something important. Whatever happened between Sarah and me, Emma needed stability. She needed to know that her family, however it was configured, was secure. "Dad," she said sleepily as I finished the story. "Yeah, kiddo, are you going to marry Mom?" It was such a direct question, asked with such innocence. "I don't know yet, Emma. But whatever happens, you and I will always be family. That's never going to change." "Good. Because I really like having a real dad." "You always had a real dad, sweetheart. Biology doesn't make someone real. Love does." She smiled and closed her eyes. "I love you, Dad. I love you too, kiddo. More than all the stars in the sky." Walking back to the living room, I found Sarah waiting anxiously. "How much of that did you hear?" I asked. "All of it, and Jake. What you said about love making someone real, not biology. That's the man I fell in love with. That's the man I want to spend my life with. I want to believe you, Sarah. I do. But I need more time." "How much time?" "I don't know. Maybe we should consider couples counseling. If we're going to make this work, we need help." Hope flickered in her eyes. "You'd be willing to try, for Emma?" "Yes, and maybe for us too." Couples counseling with Dr. Williams was brutal and beautiful at the same time. Sarah and I sat on opposite ends of a beige couch twice a week, slowly unpacking 8 years of unspoken truths, fears, and resentments. "Sarah, can you help Jake understand why you felt unable to share your suspicions about Emma's paternity?" Dr. Williams asked during one particularly intense session. Sarah twisted her hands in her lap. "I think I convinced myself that not knowing was better for everyone. If Jake wasn't Emma's father, then I wouldn't have hurt him with false hope. If he was, then I wouldn't have to face the fact that our entire relationship started with me lying to him. And Jake, how does hearing this make you feel?" "Frustrated," I admitted, "because she took away my choice. She decided for both of us what was better, without letting me have a say in my own life." "That's fair," Sarah said quietly. "I see that now. I robbed you of years of knowing you were Emma's father from the beginning. It's not just that. It's that you made me question everything. Did you really love me, or were you just settling for the safe choice? The guy who was already acting like Emma's father." The question hung in the air between us like a challenge. "I loved you," Sarah said fiercely. "I've loved you since college, even when we were just friends, even when you were with other people, even when I was convinced I wasn't good enough for you. Then why didn't you trust me with the truth?" "Because I was afraid you'd look at me the way you're looking at me right now." Dr. Williams intervened gently. "How is Jake looking at you right now, Sarah? Like he doesn't recognize me. Like I'm a stranger." I realized she was right. "I am looking at you that way, because I feel like you are a stranger. The Sarah I thought I knew wouldn't have kept something like this from me. But I'm the same person, Jake. I made a terrible mistake, but I'm still me. Are you?" It was a harsh question, but it was the core of everything I was struggling with. Dr. Williams gave us homework, exercises designed to rebuild trust and intimacy. We were supposed to share one completely honest thing with each other every day, no matter how small or seemingly insignificant. We were supposed to go on dates, just the two of us, to remember why we fell in love in the first place. It was harder than it sounds. After months of tension and hurt feelings, being vulnerable with each other felt dangerous. But slowly, gradually, we started finding our way back to each other. One evening, about 6 weeks into counseling, Emma came to me with a school project. "Dad, I have to make a family tree for social studies. But I don't know how to do it." She showed me the template: branches for parents, grandparents, siblings, extending out like the roots of an actual tree. "Well, let's start with what we know," I said, sitting down next to her at the kitchen table. "Your mom's parents are Grandma and Grandpa Chen. My parents are Grandma and Grandpa Morrison. But what do I put for my other dad? The one who isn't you?" It was such an innocent question, but it cut right to the heart of everything we'd been dealing with. "You know what? You don't have to put anything there. Some families have two dads, some have one, some have step-parents. Your family has me and Mom, and that's what matters. But what if my teacher asks?" "Then you tell her that families are about love, not just biology. And your family has plenty of love." Sarah had been listening from the kitchen doorway. That night, after Emma went to bed, she sat down next to me on the couch. "You handled that perfectly," she said. "I'm still learning how to be a dad. You've been a dad for 7 years, Jake. You just didn't know it officially." "There's something I need to tell you," I said, taking her hand. "In counseling, when you asked if I was the same person. I've been thinking about that. She tensed, probably expecting bad news. You are the same person. You're the woman who drove 3 hours to bring me soup when I had the flu in my crappy apartment. You're the woman who learned to change oil because you were too stubborn to pay someone else to do it. You're the woman who cried harder than Emma did on her first day of school. Jake. You made a mistake. A big one. But one mistake doesn't erase everything else about who you are. Does this mean you forgive me? I thought about it carefully. It means I'm ready to try. Forgiveness, I learned, isn't a moment. It's a process. Some days were better than others. Some days I woke up angry about the years I'd lost not knowing Emma was mine. Other days I was grateful that regardless of biology, we'd built a beautiful relationship based on love. Emma, meanwhile, was thriving. Knowing I was her biological father seemed to give her a new confidence. She started introducing me to her friends as my dad instead of my mom's boyfriend. She asked if she could change her name at school to Emma Morrison, which required a conversation with the principal and some paperwork, but we made it happen. You know, she said one day, while we were throwing a softball in the backyard, I always wondered why I was so good at building things like you are. What do you mean? Remember when I was 5 and I'd built that birdhouse that was actually straight? Mom said it was beginner's luck, but maybe it's just because you're my real dad and you're good at building stuff. I laughed. Maybe so, kiddo. Want to help me build some shelves for your room this weekend? Yes. Can we paint them purple? Purple it is. Sarah watched us from the kitchen window, and I could see her smiling. These moments of pure family happiness were becoming more common, slowly replacing the tension that had dominated our house for months. In November, 3 months after learning the truth, I made a decision. I want to legally adopt Emma, I told Sarah over dinner. Emma looked up from her mac and cheese, confused. But you're already my dad. I am your dad, I explained. But there's some paperwork that will make it official in the eyes of the law. It means no one can ever question that you're my daughter. Will it cost money? She asked pragmatically. Sarah laughed. Don't worry about the money, baby. Then yes, I want you to adopt me. Can I pick a new middle name too? What's wrong with your middle name now? Rose is okay, but I want something that matches yours. What's your middle name, Dad? Thomas. Can I be Emma Thomas Morrison? I looked at Sarah, who nodded. If that's what you want, that's what we'll do. The legal process was surprisingly straightforward since there was no other father on the birth certificate to contest it. Michael had never been legally established as Emma's father, which simplified everything considerably. Our lawyer, Janet Rodriguez, had an office in McKinney and specialized in family law. She walked us through the paperwork with kindness and efficiency. This is one of my favorite types of cases, she told us. Usually adoptions involve a lot more complexity, but when it's a stepfather who's been acting as the child's father for years, and especially when he turns out to be the biological father, well, it's just a matter of making the paperwork match the reality. How long will it take? I asked. With the DNA test results and Emma's consent, she's old enough that the judge will want to hear from her directly, probably 6 to 8 weeks. I get to talk to a judge? Emma asked excitedly. Just briefly, sweetheart. She asked if you want Mr. Morrison to be your legal father. Can I call her Your Honor like on TV? Janet smiled. You can indeed. As we drove home from the lawyer's office, Emma chattering excitedly about talking to a judge, Sarah reached over and took my hand. Thank you, she said quietly. For what? For loving her. For loving us. For not giving up when things got complicated. I squeezed her hand. Thank you for giving me the most amazing daughter in the world, Jake. Where does this leave us? The wedding, I mean? It was the question I'd been avoiding. Planning the adoption had been easy. Of course I wanted to be Emma's legal father. But planning a wedding required a level of trust and commitment I wasn't sure I was ready for yet. I don't know. I admit it. I know I love you. I know I want us to be a family. But marriage ... I understand. I do. I just ... I hope someday you'll be ready to take that step with me again. Maybe someday, I said. Let's focus on the adoption first. The hearing was scheduled for a Tuesday morning in early December. Emma insisted on wearing her best dress, a navy blue one with small white flowers that Sarah had bought for a cousin's wedding the year before. I want to look professional, she explained seriously. You look perfect, I assured her. Judge Martinez was a kind woman in her 50s who clearly enjoyed the happier side of family law. She spoke to Emma gently, but directly. Emma, do you understand what adoption means? Yes, Your Honor, it means Jake becomes my legal dad, not just my real dad. And is that what you want? More than anything, Your Honor. Why? Emma thought for a moment. Because he already loves me like a dad should. He helps me with homework and teaches me to build things and reads me stories. But also because we have the same eyes and we're both good at math and we both like our eggs scrambled. Judge Martinez smiled. Those sound like very good reasons to me. The gavel came down, and just like that, I was officially Emma Morrison's father. The adoption changed everything and nothing all at once. Emma was still the same bright, funny, stubborn little girl she'd always been. But now she was legally, officially, permanently mine. The relief I felt was indescribable. Sarah and I continued going to counseling, and slowly but surely, we were finding our way back to each other. Trust was still fragile, but it was growing stronger every week. Emma's teacher, Mrs. Peterson, pulled me aside after a parent-teacher conference in January. I don't know what's changed in your household, she said, but Emma is like a different child this year, more confident, more secure. She's always been bright, but now she seems to believe in herself more. She found out I'm her biological father, I explained. I think it gave her a sense of identity she was missing. Well, whatever you're doing, keep it up. She's flourishing. At home, Emma had fully embraced her new identity as Emma Morrison. She'd made a sign for her bedroom door that read Emma Thomas Morrison, age 8, daughter of Jake and Sarah Morrison. The fact that Sarah and I weren't actually married yet didn't seem to matter to her. In her mind, we were already a complete family, which is why her question over breakfast one Saturday morning caught me off guard. Dad, when are you and Mom getting married? That's complicated, sweetheart, but you love each other, right? Yes. And you both love me. Very much. And we're happy living together. Yes. So what's complicated about it? Out of the mouths of babes. From Emma's 8-year-old perspective, the solution was simple. To people who love each other and want to be a family should get married. The adult complications, trust issues, fear of being hurt again, the need to rebuild from a broken foundation, didn't exist in her world. Sometimes grown-ups need more time to work through their feelings, I explained lamely. But you've been working through your feelings forever. How much more time do you need? Sarah nearly choked on her coffee. Emma, that's not really. I'm just saying. Emma interrupted. My friend Madison's parents got divorced and then they got married again to different people. And now she has like 6 grandparents and 2 houses and it's super complicated. We're already living like a family. Why can't we just make it official? After Emma left for school, Sarah and I sat in stunned silence. She's not wrong, Sarah said finally. I know, Jake, I've been thinking. Maybe we've been approaching this all wrong. Maybe instead of trying to go back to where we were before, we should focus on building something new, something stronger. I looked at her across the kitchen table, the same table where we'd shared the DNA results that change everything. What do you mean? I mean, we're not the same people we were 8 months ago. You're not just my boyfriend anymore. You're Emma's legal father. I'm not the woman who was too scared to tell the truth. I'm someone who's learned to be completely honest, even when it hurts. Maybe we need a new beginning, not a return to the old one. Are you proposing to me? I asked with a slight smile. Maybe I am. Jake Morrison, will you marry me? Not because we were supposed to get married before, but because of who we are now, today, in this moment. I stood up and walked around the table to where she was sitting. I took her hands in mine and looked into her eyes, the same eyes that had captivated me in college, that had held so much fear and pain over the past months, and that now held nothing but hope and love. Sarah Chen, I love you. I love our daughter. I love the family we've built together. And yes, I will marry you. She threw her arms around me, tears streaming down her face. Really, but I have one condition. Her face fell slightly. What? We do it right this time. Complete honesty. No secrets, no matter how scary the truth might be. Deal, she said, immediately. Absolutely, completely, totally honest from now on. And one more thing. We're not just planning a wedding. We're planning a family celebration. Because that's what this is. The official beginning of the Morrison family. Planning our second engagement was nothing like the first time. There was no frantic excitement, no rushing to book venues and pick flowers. Instead, there was a calm certainty that felt much more mature and real. We decided to have the ceremony in our backyard in Richardson, under the big oak tree, or Emma liked to read. It would be small, just immediate family and our closest friends. Emma insisted on being the maid of honor, a title she took very seriously. "I need to plan your bachelorette party, Mom," she announced one evening. "I don't think 8-year-olds typically plan bachelorette parties, sweetheart," Sarah laughed. "Then I'll plan a different kind of party, a family party. We can get pizza and watch movies and do our nails." That sounds perfect. As we planned the wedding, we also continued our work in therapy. Dr. Williams helped us establish new patterns of communication, new ways of handling conflict, and new agreements about transparency in our relationship. "The foundation you're building now is much stronger than the one you had before," she told us during what would be our last session before the wedding. "You've both learned to be vulnerable with each other in ways that most couples never achieve. It took almost losing everything to get here," I reflected. "Sometimes that's what it takes. Sometimes we have to break completely before we can rebuild properly." 3 weeks before the wedding, we had another surprise. Sarah came home from work looking pale and shaken. "What's wrong?" I asked immediately. "I ran into Michael today, at the grocery store in Plano." My blood ran cold. Michael, the man who could have been Emma's father, the man who'd abandoned Sarah when she needed him most. What did he want? "He saw Emma with me. Jake, she looks so much like you now that she's older," he asked. He asked if she was really his daughter. "What did you tell him?" "The truth. That we did a DNA test and you're her biological father." He seemed relieved, actually, like he'd been wondering all these years, but was too afraid to ask. "How do you feel about seeing him?" Sarah sat down heavily on the couch. Grateful that he wasn't her father. Grateful that you are. Grateful that Emma will never have to wonder why her father didn't want her. Because her father, her real father, has loved her from day one. That night, as I tucked Emma into bed, she asked me about something she'd overheard. "Dad, Mom said she saw my other dad today. The one who thought he might be my real dad." "That's right. Are you sad about it?" "No, kiddo. Why would I be sad?" "Because if he was my real dad, then you would have been my real dad sooner." I sat down on the edge of her bed, marveling once again at her insight. "You know what I realized today? It doesn't matter when I found out you were mine. What matters is that you are mine, and I am yours, and nothing is ever going to change that, even if you and Mom get divorced someday. Even then, I will always be your dad, Emma. Always. Good. Because I like being Emma Morrison. I like you being Emma Morrison too." The final week before the wedding flew by in a blur of last-minute preparations. Emma insisted on making the wedding favors herself. Small potted succulents with tags that read "Love grows here." The Morrison family, est. 2024. Technically, our family was established when I was born, she pointed out as we hot-glued ribbon onto the pots. "But I guess officially it's this year." "You're right. Our family has been growing for 8 years. We're just making it official now." The night before the wedding, after Emma had gone to bed, Sarah and I sat on the back porch where we'd had so many difficult conversations over the past year. "Are you nervous?" she asked. "Surprisingly, no. Are you?" "Not about marrying you. Maybe a little nervous about the ceremony itself, having everyone watch us promise to love each other forever. We've already been loving each other forever. This is just the party to celebrate it." She leaned against me, and I wrapped my arms around her. "Jake, I need to say something, and I need you to really hear me. I'm listening. I know I hurt you when I kept the truth about Emma from you. I know I broke your trust and almost destroyed us. But I need you to know that losing you, both of you, would have been the biggest mistake of my life. You saved us, Jake. Your willingness to fight for our family, to do the hard work of forgiving me and rebuilding with me. You saved us. We saved each other," I corrected, "and we saved Emma too. She deserves to have parents who love each other and work through their problems instead of running away from them. I love you, Jake Morrison. I love you too, future Mrs. Morrison." As I write this story, I'm reminded of the tight-knit communities that make Texas so special, the kind of places where your neighbors become your family and your family becomes your whole world. Whether you're from a small town or a big city suburb, there's something about Texas communities that makes you want to fight for your family. If you're from Texas and you know what I'm talking about, drop your city name in the comments. I'd love to hear from fellow Texans who understand that family is worth fighting for. Our wedding day dawned clear and bright, with that perfect Texas autumn weather that makes you grateful to live here. Emma woke me up at 6 a.m., too excited to sleep any longer. Dad, it's wedding day. Today you and Mom get to be married, and I get to be the maid of honor, and we get to be an official family. We've always been an official family, sweetheart. Today, we're just having a party to celebrate it, the best kind of party, she agreed. By noon, our backyard was transformed. White lights strung through the oak tree, simple wooden chairs arranged in rows, a small arch decorated with wild flowers that Emma had helped pick. It was nothing like the elaborate church wedding we'd originally planned, and it was perfect. My brother Mike was my best man, and as we stood under the oak tree waiting for the ceremony to begin, he leaned over and whispered, "You look happy, brother, really, truly happy." I am. For the first time in a long time, I know exactly where I belong. Emma walked down the aisle first, carrying a bouquet of yellow roses and grinning so wide I thought her face might split in half. She took her place next to the minister, Dr. Roberts from our community church, and gave me a thumbs up. Then Sarah appeared, and my breath caught in my throat. She wore a simple ivory dress, her grandmother's pearl necklace, and the most radiant smile I'd ever seen. But what struck me most was the confidence in her posture, the peace in her eyes. This was a woman who knew exactly who she was and where she belonged. When she reached me, she whispered, "Ready to make it official, Mr. Morrison." "I've been ready for 8 years, Mrs. Morrison." Dr. Roberts had known us since Emma was 3, so he'd agreed to modify the traditional ceremony to reflect our unique journey. "Dearly beloved," he began, "we are gathered here today to celebrate not just the union of Jake and Sarah, but the official recognition of a family that has been growing in love for many years." He spoke about the different ways families are formed, some by blood, some by choice, some by a combination of both. He talked about how love isn't always simple or easy, but it's always worth fighting for. When it came time for vows, Sarah spoke first. "Jake, 8 years ago I made choices based on fear instead of trust. I kept secrets because I was afraid of losing you, not realizing that secrets were the very thing that could drive you away. You taught me that love isn't about protecting each other from the truth, it's about being brave enough to share it. You taught me that forgiveness is possible, that trust can be rebuilt, and that some things are worth fighting for. I promise to be completely honest with you, to trust you with my fears as well as my joys, and to love you and Emma with everything I have for the rest of my life." My turn. I looked out at our small gathering, my parents, Sarah's parents, my brother and his family, our closest friends, and most importantly, Emma, who was trying not to cry because she didn't want to mess up her makeup. Sarah, a wise 8-year-old, recently told me that families are about love, not just biology. You and Emma taught me what that really means. You taught me that being a father isn't about sharing DNA, it's about showing up every day and choosing to love unconditionally. But you also taught me something else, that even when we make mistakes, even when we hurt each other, love can heal us if we're brave enough to do the work. I promise to be the man you both deserve, to love you both with everything I have, and to never take this family for granted again." Dr. Roberts smiled. "Jake, do you take Sarah to be your wife, and do you commit to loving and supporting Emma as her father?" "I do." "Sarah, do you take Jake to be your husband, trusting him with your heart and with Emma's?" "I do." "And Emma," Dr. Roberts said, turning to our daughter, "do you accept Jake as your father and Sarah as your mother? And do you promise to love and honor this family you've helped create?" Emma stepped forward, her voice clear and strong. "I do. And I want everyone to know that Jake has been my dad since before I even knew what a dad was supposed to be. Today just makes it official." There wasn't a dry eye in the house. "By the power vested in me by the state of Texas, I now pronounce you husband and wife, and officially recognize this beautiful family. Jake, you may kiss your bride." As I kissed Sarah, Emma cheered, and our small gathering erupted in applause. We were official, Mr. and Mrs. Morrison, and Emma Morrison, a family bound not just by love but by law. At the reception, Emma gave a speech that had everyone in tears again. "My mom and dad taught me that families aren't perfect, but they're perfect for each other. They taught me that love means telling the truth even when it's scary, and forgiving each other when we mess up. They taught me that being a dad isn't about biology. It's about reading bedtime stories and helping with homework and always believing in your kid. My dad believed in me before he even knew I was really his, and that's how I know he's the best dad in the whole world." As I write this final chapter, Emma is 9 years old and thriving. She's still stubborn and brilliant and funny, and she still calls me dad with the same joy she had that first day she learned the truth. Sarah and I have been married for 6 months now, and our relationship is stronger than ever. We've learned to fight fair, to trust completely, and to never take each other for granted. The lesson I want to leave you with is this: families aren't defined by biology alone. They're defined by love, commitment, and the willingness to do the hard work of staying together even when it's difficult. Sometimes the greatest love stories aren't about perfect people finding each other. They're about imperfect people choosing to build something beautiful together. If you're facing challenges in your own family, remember that it's possible to rebuild from broken foundations. It takes courage, honesty, and a lot of hard work, but love, real, committed love, can overcome almost anything. DNA gave me a daughter, but love made me a father. Trust gave me back my wife, but forgiveness made us a family, and that's worth fighting for. If this story touched your heart, I'd love to hear about your own family journey. What challenges have you overcome together? What lessons have you learned about love, trust, and forgiveness? Share your story in the comments below. Your experience might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. And if you're from a close-knit community like ours here in Texas, drop your town's name in the comments too. There's something special about places where people still believe in fighting for family.